Hello and welcome to the Let's Examine Addiction Honestly podcast. My name is Charles, and today we will be talking about my addiction to nicotine. I know last week we went over tobacco, vapes, dip, nicotine, and like tobacco in general, just all the chemicals that are in it, the effects on your lungs, your body, things such as that. So today I'm going to go over my experience with it and the roughly 15 years I wasted smoking and just kind of give you everything that I went through and kind of let you know pretty much my link to it. As always, please do not use this podcast as an alternative to proven medical methods such as AA, NA, therapy, rehab, etc. Most of this is just my own experience and opinions, so please seek the proper treatment and make sure you're getting the help you truly need to be successful in kicking whatever habits and or addictions that you currently have. So my experience with smoking, I vividly remember my first cigarette. It was actually offered to me by one of my friends after my Army basic training around August of 2008. We had actually recently graduated from AIT, which is Advanced Individual Training, at Fort Jackson, South Carolina, which a lot of people in the military actually refer to as Relaxin' Jackson. And we'd actually have what were called battle buddies to go to the chow hall or anywhere else on post, and mine happened to be a smoker. So we stopped at the smoke pit, and he actually offered me a cigarette, which I made the lifelong wrong choice of accepting. And unlike drinking, my nicotine use didn't hit me right out of the gate. For the first few months, I wouldn't even call myself a casual smoker. I was actually smoking wrong, and I had maybe bought a few packs during like my first 6 months of smoking. It actually wouldn't be until I deployed to Iraq in 2009 I realized why. We were in Kuwait, and I was actually smoking with a few guys in my unit, and they started ragging on me because I wasn't actually inhaling. I was smoking them more like cigars. At this time, I took a deep inhale and gave them a good laugh when I started like wildly coughing, because I had up until this point never actually inhaled into my lungs the nicotine and like cigarette smoke, which gave them a huge laugh and probably honestly kickstarted like my actual cigarette addiction. And if you have any embarrassing stories about smoking, feel free to send them in to letsexamineaddictionhonestlypodcast@gmail.com. I'd honestly love to hear any stories that you have about smoking. I mean, I know it's a bad habit and takes a huge toll on your life. But I mean, if you've done it and you have a story that you like to share, I mean, even think it would help somebody else, it probably would, and make them feel not as alone. So please feel free to send that in. And for me, smoking was always a very social activity, especially during my time in the Army or like while drinking. I feel tobacco's so popular in the military due to like the high stress and the huge amounts of downtime in between being highly stressed out. And finance was relatively busy when we were in the office, but like in the motor pool, the field, or while deployed, we had tons of downtime. I mean, Kuwait was mostly just general training, so we do things to train for a hostile environment such as IEDs, rollovers, and actually get given our gear. So it was more of a semi-relaxed state of kind of getting prepped to go into a not-so-relaxed state. And I mean, there were a lot of smoke pits, especially around all the tents and everything. And then I'd end up spending a lot of time in the smoke pit with the same people who'd actually joked on me about not smoking correctly. But I mean, these were some of like the funniest conversations I ever had in my life, and we just kind of talk about, you know, things like home, family, stuff we'd gone through in the past, just different stories like that. And even one of my sergeants actually introduced me to cigars, so him and I would sit and smoke cigars, and he'd talk about like the gym he had back home that he had run for a while and like things that had happened. And I mean, these were some of the best conversations I've had in probably all my life, and I remember them, I mean, honestly, over 15 years after I had them. And honestly, smoking also went so heavily hand in hand with drinking. I mean, especially for me, in the military it did too, but it really increased while I was drinking. And I honestly don't know why that is. I'm assuming it's like the lower inhibition of like alcohol and then just kind of like giving into those cravings, because anytime I drank, I would actually just crave nicotine so badly. Honestly, that's why I'm so surprised realize that even since I've quit smoking, anytime I have drank since, I have not gone back to smoking. There's been a few times where I've had cravings, and I don't know how for the life of me I have not relapsed. And it's one of the reasons I kind of want to quit drinking as well. I mean, besides the slew of other reasons and the stupid decisions I've made. But honestly, I'm more worried about smoking just because of all the issues I've had with my lungs, especially with all the things I've been experiencing from being in the military and deploying overseas, and like the diminished lung capacity, the rhinitis, like the chronic fatigue and everything, just being exhausted all the time. I really don't want to go back to smoking, and I feel that drinking they complement each other so well that honestly, if I don't quit drinking, that at some point I probably will relapse and go back to smoking, and I really don't want that to happen. So to finally quit smoking, it took me years. Out of the 15 to 16 years I smoked, I probably have tried to quit since I was in the military. There were times I was coming back off leave in the military and threw my cigarettes away trying to quit, and that was less than 4 years into smoking, and it took me nearly 15. So essentially from year 3 of smoking to year 15, 16 is how long it took me to quit. And I tried all sorts of methods and none seemed to help me stick to it. I always seemed to relapse. I'd try quitting for like my brothers, for my health, money, etc. Just trying to get it to stick and actually stick to it and kick the habit, and it just never seemed to take. And even, if I'd get close and go a couple days without smoking, I'd drink or something like that, or go around friends who use nicotine, and then it'd just be right back in there. I'd switch to dipping, and then I'd switch back to smoking. It was just one of the hardest things was leaving behind all the things linked to smoking. That camaraderie, if I was on like long drives, I came from Fort Drum, New York to Michigan, so that's like 12 plus hours of driving all by yourself with nothing but like music. At the time, I don't even know if there were podcasts. There probably were, but it wasn't something I was savvy to. I had friends and family who smoked, so it was just filled my life so much. And honestly, what helped me quit smoking, which is not something I honestly recommend, was I switched to vaping and actually quit smoking and dipping. At the time, dipping was making me like vomit, especially unless I used pouches, and smoking was just kind of making me sick, and like I hated the taste and smell of like the stale odor, which just helped push me into looking into like psychedelics and their relatively recent decriminalization in Ann Arbor, Michigan. In a really weird turn of events, I actually considered using them just because I've heard that they've been so beneficial on like addiction, for drinking, smoking, mental health, and I considered like going over there and actually trying it. And I listened to this podcast called Time Suck with Dan Cummings, and he went over one of his stories. He's honestly one of my favorite comedians, and he's just talked so highly of psychedelics and how careful use of them could help make changes to, mental state and just all sorts of different things. I honestly suggest his podcast if you love like dark humor, or if you like dark comedy. He has a bunch of stand-up specials as well, so I fully recommend them. And there's been like a few different episodes where he's mentioned like magic mushrooms and LSD and like his own personal experience. He's talked about like other people emailing in their personal experience. So I actually had a friend who invited me over to Ann Arbor to try them, and the first experience was absolutely wild and immensely beneficial towards like my drinking and smoking and mental health. Honestly, at that time I went from drinking every single day to weekends at most. Right now even I don't even drink both days on the weekends anymore. I try to stick to only drinking with my dad. And then like a few trips later, I had gotten so tired of smoking that I honestly quit cold turkey. I just threw the vape out one day. I didn't even look back. It's helped me think about a bunch of different things like for my mental health and in my life, and come to terms with like the loss of 2 of my dogs and everything like that, the loss of my great grandma, just thinking about all the bad things I've done, the regrets I've had, the decisions I've made, and kind of come to a little bit of terms with them. And like I said, the benefits for like smoking weren't immediately apparent, but it did start to change. I mean, I started going longer in between like smoking. I would not smoke all day. I would go days without it, and then eventually it just got to the point where I was so tired of being like out of breath and not feeling well that I honestly just tossed my vape out one day and never picked it back up. And it also helped that like one of the times while I was tripping, I vaped way too much to the point of being sick, and then just it had no interest in doing it at all time. And since then I've only had a few cravings. I haven't had like the constant cravings like when I tried to quit before. I mean, it's just been absolutely phenomenal. I mean, I want to suggest psychedelics for everybody. I mean, I can definitely do a podcast over my experience with them. I'd love to talk about with other people and their experiences with them, because I believe if you are in a good state of mind, and I mean that like mentally healthy, you can be going like through a rough time and need to like sort some stuff out, and it'll help with them. I wouldn't if you are going through like a super tough time, because all my bad trips have been when I've had a lot on my mind and just been stressed out and it's not gone anywhere well. But I'd love to hear other people's stories on those, or share my own if anybody's interested. And I mean, the recovery afterwards has been insane. I mean, over the past like few years since I quit smoking, I've had a lot of heavy mucus buildup, like phlegm production, especially during them first like couple of months of quitting smoking. There was a lot of like blowing my nose. I mean, even right now, I've got rhinitis now, but that's not linked to the smoking. But I mean, smoking has definitely not helped with my breathing and my diminished like lung ability. So you might not see all of your health return, but honestly, if you're thinking about quitting smoking, I fully recommend it. I no longer waste money on packs of cigarettes. I no longer smell like stale cigarette smoke. I no longer, have to plan my life around smoking. I mean, even with all this stuff, I've still felt so much better than I have in the past. Even the last couple of weeks, I've started like trying to work out again and trying to get some semblance of health and trying to eat healthier. So, I mean, smoking, if you're looking into that, it could be the first step into like kicking other habits. I mean, it's such an easy one to do, and there's so much availability of cigarettes and vapes and dip that kicking it, I mean, I think it's like, I don't know about some of the harder drugs, but I mean, for drinking, smoking is definitely a lot harder for me to kick in that sense, because not every gas station sells alcohol, but most every gas station I've ever been to sells cigarettes. And you can get cigarettes at all time. As to where in Michigan, there are certain days and times where you can't get alcohol. So you're kind of locked out and kind of limited on when you can buy alcohol. But cigarettes, I mean, you can even get like nicotine pods and packs in the mail now, so you can essentially never be out of nicotine. So if you're thinking about quitting smoking, I fully recommend it. Look into anything you have. A lot of those different methods I talked about, just try not to switch one bad nicotine habit up for the other one. I mean, if you need somebody to hold you accountable, reach out. I will definitely, try to be your support as much as possible. We can prop each other up. I mean, anyone who's quit any addiction at all knows that every day is a battle and that you're fighting every day to make sure you keep that addiction at bay. So please feel free to reach out. I believe I have a Facebook page up right now. If not, I'll check later today. But feel free to join that and post your stories and keep in contact with other people, or even if it's just you and me on the Facebook page. But please know that you're not alone in trying to quit. And I mean, all that's my overly far too long journey with nicotine. I mean, I wasted like 15 years. I can sit and dwell on it and mope, but it's not going to do me any good. But just know that you're not alone, and there are people out there that care about you. And quitting smoking, even if it doesn't feel like it's beneficial in the short term, in the long term, I mean, if it gives you more ability to do stuff, you're not going to try to find places to smoke. I mean, there for the longest time, I was trying to hide it from relationships, brothers, other family members. It just frees up so much of your life and just opens up so much that you can do. So just know that, I mean, if you can kick that one addiction, maybe it's that domino effect and you kick the other addiction. I mean, it's definitely helped that I don't smoke, that now I mean, if I don't want to drink and don't want to do something like that, I don't have to. I don't feel like the whole tug of war with my addictions trying to get me to do other ones. So if you do have any stories, please feel free to send them in. Maybe like experiences, how you've quit. I mean, how you got started in smoking. Like I said up top, if any of the stories you've had, maybe embarrassing ones, funny ones, you can email the podcast and I'll either read it or you can come on and share it yourself. We can have, I really don't know how to do interviews, but I mean, we could do like a Zoom call and record that, and you can share your story yourself on here. I'd love to have you on and talk to you. Even if you don't want to share it on here and you just want to sit and have a chat, I'd love to talk to you. Just know that you're not alone. No matter what battle you're fighting, somebody else has fought it too. And no matter what you've done in the past, no matter how far you think life has fallen, just realize you're not alone. And that, I mean, there's people out there that care about you. And I mean, even if you've burned every bridge in your life, just know that I think you deserve to be here. You deserve a second chance. There was a time in the past where I didn't think people deserve second chances. I didn't believe that people could change. But honestly, I think there are people that can change. That once you hit a certain point in your life, you want to change and you're capable of that change, and just know that you got this. Just take it one day at a time, and if you fall off that wagon and you light up a cigarette, you can restart that timer the next day. You're not a failure due to, like, even if I were to smoke today and restart my timer tomorrow, that doesn't make me a complete failure. I can start it back up. It's a timer, and while I'd be disappointed in myself, I could get back up on there and start my timer back over again. So please, as always, like, subscribe, email me at either letsexamineaddictionhonestly at gmail or theleahpodcast at gmail.com, and please share any of your feedback, ideas, or stories with me. As always, I want to thank you so much for listening to me. Have a wonderful day. Bye.